Hello, welcome to Tutor Amaki Academy, where we build a strong foundation for every student. Today, I am going to take you through accounting information versus non-accounting information. Day in, day out, a lot of activities, events, and transactions are taking place in our business. But the question is, which of these events, activities, and transactions can we record in our books? And which are those activities we cannot record in our books? Therefore, by the close of today's lesson, we should be able to distinguish between accounting information and non-accounting time. Let's dive deep into today's lesson. First of all, let's look at the meaning of accounting information. Accounting information are transactions and events of financial character that affect the navigation of the business and can be measured in monetary terms. Now, this definition has two conditions that must be satisfied. It is trying to say that before an event can be recorded as an accounting information, it must have an effect on our finances. At the same time, we should be able to measure that event in monetary terms. When these two conditions, then we can go ahead and record the information as what? An accounting information. Let's proceed to look at some few examples of what? Activities or events or transactions that we can record as accounting information. The first one is purchase of goods. When we buy goods, this involves movement of cash out of the business. And this movement of cash can be measured in terms of money. Sell goods, it also involves movement of income or revenue into the business, can be measured, and therefore must be recorded as an accounting information. The next is payment of salaries or wages. When we pay our employees or workers, this also involves the movement of money which can be objectively measured. Therefore, we must record this information. The next is acquisition of assets. Most of the time, we buy assets to help us generate more income. This acquisition of assets can also be measured in terms of money, and therefore must be classified as an accounting information. We also have rent paid. Most of the time, the premises used by businesses is rented, and we are required to pay rent sometimes at the end of the month or at the end of the year. This payment can be measured in terms of money, and therefore must be classified as an accounting information. We also have debtors. Sometimes when we sell goods, we did not receive cash immediately. Our debtors or our customers will have to pay on a later date. So when they finally make payment, this amount of money can be measured and therefore can be classified as an accounting information. The last but not least is creditors. Most of the time too, we also buy goods on account or on credit from our suppliers, which we later pay, and this payment can be measured in terms of money. Therefore, creditors can be classified as an accounting information. Let's move on to look at what non-accounting information is. Non-accounting information are events of non-financial character that have considerable economic or financial significance on resources and obligations of the business, but are hard to measure in terms of money. What this definition is trying to say is that this type of events, transactions, or activities have an effect on our finances, but because we cannot measure that effect in terms of money, we cannot record such activities or events as what? Accounting information. So let's proceed to look at what are those events or activities that affect our finances, yet we cannot measure them in terms of money. 1. Death of a director in an airplane crash. If the director of the business is involved in an airplane crash, this can disrupt the business operation for a moment. These have some financial implications, but as to how much has been lost cannot be measured, and therefore this cannot be classified or recorded as what? As an accounting information. The next is poor health of a manager. When the manager of the business is not feeling well, his output will be affected. He cannot give out his best, and this also has a significant effect on our finances. But as to how much we have lost as a result of that cannot be measured, and therefore this cannot be recorded as an accounting information. The next is emergence of riots in the business area. If by chance there is a riot around our premises where we are operating, we will be forced to what? Pause operation for some time. We will be forced to halt operation for some time for the safety as well as for the safety of our staff or workers. This has a significant effect on our finances, but this cannot be measured in terms of money, and therefore we cannot record this as what? An accounting information. The next is poor working condition of workers or employees. When our workers or employees condition are very poor, they will not be motivated to work. They will not be motivated to give out their best, and this can have some financial implications. But we cannot measure how much we may have lost as a result of the employees not giving out their best. Therefore, we cannot record this as what? An accounting information. Next is market trends. Sometimes situations in the market where the business is operating may be favorable or unfavorable. But once we cannot measure the extent of financial effect of this particular situation, we cannot record it as what? An accounting information. Next is staff punctuality. If our staff are coming to work late, if our staff are not coming to work on time, this can affect our output and thereby affecting our finances. But we cannot objectively measure how much we are losing as a result of what? This. Therefore, we cannot record staff punctuality as an accounting. Not the least is customer complaints. If our customers are not satisfied and they come to complain about how we conduct our business, this can have an implication on our finances. But once we cannot measure how much we may lose as a result of that, we cannot record this as an accounting information. Therefore, this is between accounting information and non-accounting information. It therefore means that it is not every event, it is not every activity, it is not every transaction that is occurring in the business that we can record as an accounting information. There are certain transactions or activities that have on our finances, but we cannot record them because we cannot objectively measure those events in monetary terms. This brings us to the end of today's lesson. If you find this lesson helpful, please like and share. And if there is any topic you want us to treat, please put it in the comment section. Thank you for your time.